By the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire was bleeding cash, facing massive, unsustainable military expenditures to hold its borders together. The state was running severe budget deficits, with no easy way to close the gap. Governing this sprawling territory and paying the bureaucrats, merchants, and armies that kept it running required vast amounts of physical silver and gold. Historically, when the treasury ran low, the state relied on a tool called tagshish, or debasement. They would quietly reduce the actual silver content of their coins, melting them down with cheaper metals to stretch their limited funds further. By the 1820s and 30s, this trick stopped working. The state had squeezed so much silver out of the coins that it triggered the largest wave of inflation in Ottoman history. The physical currency was visibly degraded and structurally compromised. Citizens realized their local money was rapidly losing value. To protect their savings, they began hoarding foreign coins and refusing to bring precious metals to the imperial mints, a process economists call currency substitution. The government tried to pivot and borrow money from London bankers, but those early attempts failed to secure foreign credit. The empire was completely trapped. They had no physical silver, no access to foreign loans, and an urgent need to pay their military. To survive, the state was forced into a radical, untested economic experiment. In the late 1830s and 1840s, the state introduced the Kaime'nin. Rather than everyday cash, these were highly targeted government debt notes, specific bonds that yielded a solid 6% interest return to the holder. These notes were strictly used to pay short-term debts owed to Galata bankers and wealthy merchants. Initially, the bold experiment worked. Because the notes paid interest and were backed by the state, the market trusted them. They traded at the exact same value as silver coins, restoring a brief period of stability. The government proved that paper could hold real wealth in the Ottoman economy, provided it was restricted, backed by a yield, and kept out of the hands of the general public. But this success gave the government a dangerous idea. If the market inherently trusts the paper system, the state might not need to pay interest on it. In 1852, they replaced large 6% bonds with small 0% notes in 10 and 20 kurosh denominations, released to the public for ease of daily transactions. In reality, the state was stealthily funding itself by printing free money. This move stripped the paper of its financial asset status and turned it into fiat currency, making the national money supply a direct, immediate product of the state's military needs, rather than its actual physical wealth. The system faced its first massive stress test during the Crimean War, requiring a sudden, staggering influx of military funding to keep the army afloat. To meet the demand, the state flooded the market. In 1861, a record 1.250 million kurosh in paper notes poured into the economy. The value collapsed instantly. A note officially worth 400 kurosh plummeted in value until it could barely buy a single physical gold lira. Facing widespread public outrage, the government secured emergency loans from the Imperial Ottoman Bank to buy back their worthless paper and pull it from circulation. 15 years later, the cycle repeated. The empire defaulted on foreign debt. Almost immediately, Russian troops crossed the Danube, sparking another existential war. Desperate for cash, the state printed 16 million paper liras. This unbacked currency was shoved into soldiers' hands as pay and forced upon peasants. The inevitable crash followed. Exchange rates tanked to 450 kurush per gold lira, dragging the entire empire through 3 full, agonizing years of severe economic chaos before the worthless notes were finally withdrawn. The state had developed a lethal addiction. To survive immediate military crises, they repeatedly cannibalized their own domestic economy. This cyclical trap reached its climax during World War I. By the end of 1918, a staggering 158 million liras had been printed, effectively obliterating whatever value the currency had left. For the everyday citizen, the aftermath was devastating. Their purchasing power was destroyed, and lifetimes of savings evaporated into slips of worthless paper. Public trust eroded entirely. Citizens recognized the hypocrisy of a state that forced them to use worthless paper for daily trade, while the government's own economy broke down around them. This internal cycle of debt and printing inevitably fueled hyperinflation. And as that domestic system broke down, it funneled the empire's entire financial future into a massive, permanent pipeline of foreign debt. The Ottoman Empire's desperate attempt to print its way to financial independence became the exact mechanism that cemented its total financial subjugation to Europe.